Welcome to the future. Welcome to Bitcoin, Bit2Me on this April afternoon, the first in the year 2025. Well, it's a pleasure to be back with all of you, seeing you already in the chat live. We see that the regulars who never miss, of course, LV. We were watching to see if you wrote the first or the second. We also see Luis, Javier, Matt, Jordi. Well, truly a pleasure. As you know, we met in person last month. We were over there in Castellón. We were able to chat a little. Today, we have a very special program that we know you are waiting for, Pubidesh, to talk much more in depth with much more calm about a B2M, which is what's happening. Of course, Neil will be joining us for this, but we must not forget Giovanni, who is already here. How are you, Giovanni? Good afternoon. How are you?
How are you, Javier? Welcome to the entire community. Thank you, as always, for being here supporting us. And indeed, as you say, today we have Anil who will present to us and will address all those frequently asked questions and doubts that we are always collecting, both in the YouTube chat here and in the Telegram channel. So we are always attentive to try to resolve all those concerns for you. So welcome. And I truly believe it's going to be quite interesting. Stay tuned because we always have some surprise at the end.
Well, great. Before we hand it over to Neil, Giovanni, if you agree, let's first do a review, as we do every month, of what's happening in the market, the most important news, in case someone isn't up to date, although we know that you, Bit2Mers, are super attentive to what's happening in the ecosystem on a macro level. But you do know that in the first part of the program, I like to address some issues that I think might be interesting when it comes to zooming out and seeing more in the long term, where all this movement in the world is taking us with the entry of Donald Trump, the US government, companies, and so on. So today I'm going to start, look, Giovanni, with a chart that is not specifically about Bitcoin, well, not specifically about cryptocurrencies, but it's the gold price chart. And I am amazed, well, not amazed. I completely understand that it is trading above $3,000. In fact, we have reached all-time highs today of 3,164. And today I shared this chart on social media and highlighted the moments when gold has risen in such a vertical, rapid manner. It is true that this chart dates back to 1980. Therefore, you can see the movements a bit. But whenever there is an increase, whenever there is a rise, which are those little arrows you see highlighted there, we have the beginning or the trigger of a broader crisis. First, we have the onset of the subprime mortgage crisis in 2008, which, as you know, led to the great financial crisis where banks had to be bailed out. Well, what we saw from 2005, if you notice, is an increase, a beginning of the rise in the price of gold, which was at $400, $450, and ended at the end of the Euro crisis, closer to 2011, 2012, at around $170.50. So gold is a market indicator where investors, the participating agents, say, I need a risk-free asset because I am seeing significant risks in the monetary and financial system, and they take refuge in the metal. But it is true that the purchases that occurred in 2007, 2008, and up to 2012 were not so much by central banks, which have the power to accumulate this type of gigantic reserve, but rather by clients. And then we had a correction. We went to the year 2018-19, where you see that gold started to rise strongly again. And it broke or reached $2,000 per ounce. And what did we have right after the rise of gold in 2019? Well, the pandemic. You all remember the stimuli that had to be injected into the financial and monetary system to save it and also to compensate for the closure of economies worldwide. And since 2020, it is true that we have had a lateralization of gold. But precisely since Donald Trump's victory in November, we have seen a takeoff that, if you look to the right, the part closest to where the value of the numbers is, we have a spectacular takeoff, I would say almost parabolic, which surpasses the growth rate of all previous events. So there I put a question mark because many of us are speculating about what comes next and how this might affect us as retail investors, as people interested in Bitcoin, the world of cryptocurrencies, and so on. Having said that, which already helps us to put the movie a bit into context. At what point do I think we are at a macro level? We are at a moment of loss of confidence. Why a loss of confidence? Well, for a reason that I believe was the trigger, beyond COVID. In 2022, when Russia invades Ukraine, as you know, what Russia does, what the West does with Russia is freeze its financial assets in the form of dollars, which amounts to 600 billion. What happens when you do that? You are sending a message to the rest of the world. You are telling them that the quintessential asset that has been used since World War II until now for a country to accumulate foreign currencies or treasury bonds, we break it. Because I'm telling you that the moment you do something I don't like, I'm going to seize it. I'm going to take it away. So what happens? That there is a rupture, and since that year, we see that China has reduced its exposure to US bonds by 30 or 35% and has started accumulating gold. Of course, what does this have to do with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? I believe we are in a moment of systemic change. This is also discussed and explained very well by the economist Ray Dalio, the head of Bridgewater, this very important US fund, who tells us that when debt is exponential, as we have seen in recent years, and there is a loss of confidence in the current model, states and central banks start accumulating gold. What happens? What happens with Bitcoin in this scenario? And with some cryptocurrencies that the United States, if you remember, on March 3rd of this past month, stated that Bitcoin and a basket of crypto assets, including XRP, Cardano, Solana, Ethereum, will be a strategic reserve for the country. Why? Because just like China and Russia are accumulating gold, the United States is anticipating that having this type of assets in the coming years, because this doesn't happen overnight, there will be a paradigm shift. So it is true that despite all these news, there is a fatigue. We are all seeing Bitcoin in the range of $80,000, $85,000. We reached highs of 109,000 about 2.5 months ago. But what has happened? Well, a massive uncertainty. If we add to that the tariff measures that Trump is implementing, and we are not clear about what is going to happen, and it is literally tomorrow, April the 2nd, he calls it the day of liberation, but we could see massive volatility. So what investors are doing is moving to traditional safe assets, such as gold and public debt. Because if you look at the bonds of the world's most important states, you will realize that interest rates in recent days are dropping. And that's because there is a lot of money that was invested in the NASDAQ, in the Dow Jones, in the S&P, which is now shifting to a more conservative type of investment as a refuge. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, what happens is that they are perceived, even though they have been established as a strategic reserve, as a risky asset. And what do these types of assets, both the stock market and Bitcoin and crypto assets, respond very well to? To liquidity. At the moment, a crisis arrives, which seems like it could be one of Trump's objectives to force the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. We will see how that liquidity returns to the market. And since we already have the bridges built, including ETFs, including new companies that are interested in accumulating Bitcoin, like GameStop, like MicroStrategy, like MetaPlanet, well, I think we will see a recovery. In this chart, Jose, the second one I left you, you can see the Bitcoin price and the 50-week moving average line, or the 50-day moving average in black. So what you see is that in the bull market, what we do is support on that line on different occasions in the previous cycle. And now what we just did when Bitcoin reached 78,000 is test that support line. This means that this support line will hold, and at the moment it breaks, as we saw in the previous cycle, we will start the bear market, the downtrend market. Well, not necessarily, but it is another indicator that we are still in the bull market, that we have not yet fallen below this line, and that we have a few months of upward trend left. But I insist, the most important thing to follow the quotation, the price of both Bitcoin and crypto assets, is the liquidity in the system. And this wall, there are several Federal Reserve charts that show us this, which measure all the money that is circulating in the financial banking system, and also in the economy. And having said that, Giovanni, not to go on too long, just to remember that at Bit2Me, what we have developed are products, services that allow you to make a recurring purchase to avoid the volatility we are seeing these days. And when it becomes lateral, we can establish a purchase point at a specific price that interests us with a fixed amount to avoid too much exposure at a given time. What do I mean by this? The other day, talking to a friend, he said to me, "Hey, Javier, I'm going to buy 30,000 euros. He bought 30,000 euros at once, and instead of making a separate purchase, he bought it at a higher price, and when the price dropped, the impact was greater. It is true that if you buy and then the price goes up, well, that's fantastic, but not everyone gets it right. So keep in mind this macroeconomic environment, this historical environment of transitioning from one model to another, where Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are going to play a fundamental role. So
that's a bit, look, Javi, as always, thank you very much. That's it. A lot of value there, as I was saying. Now, as a user, a bit, you mentioned precisely about the purchase orders, recurring purchases. We have articles to explain how to do it. We even try to support them in all of this. In that same line, it's super important. We also have Bit2Me News. It's the platform where we provide daily news. We summarize everything that's happening. Something we don't have, as might be the case with you, who has given us an excellent summary. And also, not less important, we have price alerts, because as we always say, we don't have the possibility to keep track of everything, or we don't want to dedicate that time, so we have price alerts. Price alerts allow us, we can set as many as we want. We can simply set, for example, one at $100,000 for Bitcoin, another at 90,000. Every $1,000, whatever you want. So taking a look is super useful because it really lets you disconnect a bit in the same way as with recurring purchases. That said, we also have in mind to start to provide some strategies, not directly ours, but with people from the industry. Even along those lines, we will later give some extra announcements, but well, thank you very much to everyone. And also something super important, and we give way to it as we are precisely in line with the first steps that people ask us about, and we often don't know what to answer or don't have the time. Right now, what we have is my first steps directly from the app. In the side tab, we have my first steps at the bottom, some videos that are really quite interesting, very simple, in which you always have the possibility to delve deeper with more information and more detail among them. I think some of them feature you, Javier, Oko, explaining it in a super comfortable, easy way so that those first steps are a comfortable way to start.
Well, yes, in fact, the idea is that if anyone registers on Bit2Me, they don't feel lost, that they see step by step what instructions to follow to make a purchase, a sale, an exchange, what it means to leave Bitcoin and crypto assets within the platform. And that's the idea, that you go with a guide accompanying you through the different products, because there are many users who, yes, make their first purchase, but then don't know that Earn exists. They don't know how to connect the coins to the MasterCard card, that they can have it in the virtual wallet and make payments with Google Pay directly from the mobile phone, or request the physical card and these kinds of things. So what we want is to land all those ideas so that anyone, Giovanni, regardless of their level, feels comfortable when using Bit2Me.
It's also super important for us to get feedback on those kinds of my first steps, the videos that are there. If you think it's necessary, that there's something more needed that you would like, that you've noticed they're starting and require it, remember that you have Bit2Me feedback precisely for them. We are very, very attentive. And in that line, we can keep improving, correcting certain things to align with our community for those first steps, even for people who have more advanced knowledge.
Remind everyone that we have in the loan service, which is Bit2Me Loan. For those who don't know it, it's a product within Bit2Me that allows you to leave. Borrow to Bit2Me by collateralizing your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, and in that way have liquidity. Imagine that now you need extra liquidity because you have invested a large part of your savings in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, and you are happy with the increase it has had. But you say, damn, I don't want to sell because I have a perspective that in 6 months, a year, it will continue to rise. What have we done with Bit2Me loan? You lend that Bitcoin, leave it in Bit2Me or that Ethereum. We give you up to 50% liquidity in a stablecoin or in euros, and then you can repay it in convenient installments. So that if now during Easter you say, hey, I want to go on vacation and I don't want to get rid of the Bitcoin and I want to be able to use it for extra liquidity, it's something you have at your disposal. And what we've done is add 2 stablecoins that can be used within the European Union. As you know, stablecoins must meet a series of requirements and regulations to be marketed, traded through platforms that comply with the regulations, such as Bit2Me in the case of the MiCA law, which is the European framework we've talked about many times. And you will have both EUR and USDR available, which are 2 stablecoins linked to both the euro and the dollar, so you can operate with them. What advantage does having stable dollars offer at this moment? Well, as you know, we are in a period of significant volatility in the Forex world, in the currency market. What does that mean? It means that if the euro appreciates or depreciates against the dollar, you used to have to go to a bank or a broker to exchange those euros and dollars. Now, with stablecoins, you will be able to protect yourself or speculate in some way on the future price of the local currency, in this case, the euro against the dollar. Right now, I think Giovanni is at 108. But what advantage does doing this have besides? For those of you who have never done it, these stable coins, besides being able to connect them obviously with the Bit2Me MasterCard and make payments and generate cash back, you can also use them in Bit2Me Earn, in staking, and you can generate a bonus, an automatic reward and incentive thanks to the B2M token by having different levels of Space Center. We will also touch on these points later, Giovanni. And here we have, I don't know, if you want, I'm eager to give the floor to Anil, who I see on screen and is eager to join.
To conclude, before giving the big step to Anil, it's super important. We have also added operational improvements, such as the repeat purchase button, the button to convert into a recurring purchase, what we already have, and we have also redesigned the pricing screen, something super important precisely to make it super easy to advance with the application so that we can move on to the next steps. For example, there are people who were unaware of the recurring purchase, so we are making it easier for them to see it right away, and that's about it. So welcome, Niri. Let's give the big step to Neil.
And I think we have it here. How about Neil? How are you doing? We missed you and everyone has given away the money.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. It's always a pleasure to share the screen with you and a delight to listen to you. We're here to talk a little about how B2M is doing, especially regarding the redemptions we launched recently, which have already received a very good reception. And any questions we have, we'll address them.
Let's get to it if you want, because we also have some slides that you always prepare with images that accompany all the explanations you give us. And I think that at any moment, Giovanni, if someone asks a question in the live chat, or if we ourselves see something that would be interesting to clarify, well, we'll let you know. So if you want, I think we already have the presentation on screen, Neil.
Yes, let's start by recalling that we recently, a few days ago, closed the topic of the 100,000 best campaign. It's a milestone we reached a little over a month ago, and it's something that at Bit2Me obviously makes us very proud and very happy, as it means that people, or at least some of them, especially those who have their funds within Bit2Me, can take advantage of B2M and get all the benefits and utility that the platform offers. And that is a milestone we achieved that consolidates us and tells us that we are doing things right in terms of providing utilities, because people are interested, people want it. And it shows us that creating token holders, no matter how the market is doing, the people who are very active and observe how the number of token holders evolves see that it is always growing, which is a very good sign. Especially when people join, we already mentioned it in a live session, but around 25% of people who start trading on Bit2Me become SM holders within a few days or a couple of weeks. And then the percentage keeps growing as the weeks go by. But that means that from the beginning, the utility is evident, that the interest is apparent from the start. And that's something very good. So to celebrate it, we launched this campaign. Let's remember that we are distributing 1 million. Well, we are going to distribute because the distribution hasn't been done yet. Don't worry. of 1 million B2M, 10 winners based on the operations they had from the Bitcoin platform. It is true that the condition was to have a minimum of 10,000 B2M locked for 3, 6, and 12 months, but the truth is that many holders already met this requirement, because in the end we have many holders, and we will later see a bit how the locks are, but who are very pleased with the locking system, so it's very cool. And you should know that we already have the winners. We haven't shared them yet, but we do have them. Yesterday, we started to communicate it, sending emails, and today we have started making calls to the winners. Let's remember that we always choose, in this case, 2 winners for each product, a total of 10 winners who receive 100,000 B2M. But if they do not respond in the appropriate time, we move on to those we have selected as substitutes. In the end, we have many substitutes, so don't worry, there will always be a winner. What I'm going to do now is quickly say first names, because in the end, due to data protection, we cannot say the full name. But just so you know, if we haven't been contacted yet, but you have this name, there's a possibility. The first names are Daniel, Roberto, Javier, another Daniel. Well, Javier is Javier Pastor. Just to clarify, can't men participate with the name? We can't participate in the promotions, so no. We have Jose, we have Enrique, we have Marius, Roberto, Silvia, Carlos, and that's it. Those would be the winners. If they don't respond in the appropriate time and so on, we would move on to the substitutes.
Perfect. Well, there would be the topic of the winners, so we continue a bit. Yes, yeah, let's go ahead, Giovanni. If you want, you have a control. We depend on you 100%. Sam today. Of course, yeah, I'm the one who steps on the cable. No, come on, we activate super well. Just to make a quick point precisely about what they were saying, that the majority would be in Europe, not necessarily, because although in Latin America they currently don't have the card available, we are already working on it. In fact, soon we will give the people of Argentina, the Bit2Me community in Argentina, the possibility to use the card. And along those lines, we will continue with the other countries that make up Latin America. So be patient. However, you have many possibilities to, for example, accumulate points, just as we are seeing with the blockings on EPANA, and now they will explain more details to us in ILA.
Yes. Also to mention that in the draw for the 100,000 B2M, a few days ago we announced the winners, and I don't quite remember, but I know that at least a couple of the names I mentioned are from Latin America. And there have been winners from Latin America, so no problem. It is true that, for example, in the case of cars, no, they have not been able to participate, but they have still had the opportunity to participate in Wallet, Pro, DNL, and then everything else they have been able to participate in. So it has been limited, but to a certain extent. That said, we begin to discuss the issue of blockages. We have been dealing with the issue of blockages for a few months now, more than 5 months. Apologies, we let the 5 slip there. But what is true is that we have more than 1.370 billion B2M locked, which, as you know, is more than 27% of the initial total supply of B2M. It's quite large. Obviously, there are parts that are outside of Bit2Me, there are parts that are in reserve, so that 27% is quite large. It's significantly higher in terms of real circulation, and that's a very positive point and demonstrates the confidence we have in S&P2M, which also makes us very proud. And to mention that 76% of those funds are in a 12-month lock. If the mere fact of locking it is already a huge point of confidence, the fact that more than half of those locks are for 12 months is something incredible. So that's been spectacular. We continue working to improve the locks, which is what we will see next, but for now, we are very happy with the results. And you should also know that more than 1.5 million B2M have been deducted due to API recoveries. Remember that these 1.5 million have been returned to the farming pool to be redistributed to the users. Agreed? It remains somewhat in the hands of those token holders who have indeed maintained their B2M lock. So let's move on to the next point.
Agreed?
Next, the improvements we are going to address over the coming weeks or months. Here you should know that this live session is the March Updates Live, and I made a special appearance regarding the redemption topic, but this is not a B2M Updates or B2M Roadmap Live. We will have that in the coming weeks. I need to finalize a few things because you know that when I come, I like to come with everything tied up, with everything and a bit, even if it's just approximate timelines that can help you. And I can't offer that right now. So we will try to do it as soon as possible and organize that B2M updates live that you all love and enjoy so much. Having said that, regarding the next improvement points for the blocking section, what we are definitely going to address, we'll see when and so on, but we will definitely tackle the ability to move funds from the flexible pool to the blocking pool. Since currently you have to return it to the wallet and then to the blocking pool, we will avoid that double step a bit. Then the ability to update the duration of the pool without having to add funds, and the same but in reverse, the ability to add funds without increasing the expiration duration of the pool. Let's say it's something you've also been asking for a lot in recent months because you want to contribute more, but it's not possible for you because it causes the expiration to update. And as a result of that, we are also making other improvements, such as trying to contribute from a pool with a shorter expiration to one with a longer expiration without impacting the discount aspect. It's also something we're going to review. And in the end, if you've been active in the community, you'll know what we're going to review because it's the most voted, the most communicated, the most discussed. And there we are always with active listening that represents us so much.
Shall we continue for a moment longer? Let's go.
Yes. Let's keep going. If you have any important questions, specifically about what we're discussing, stop me. And if not, we'll discuss it at the end with all the accumulated questions. At the level of discounted funds, it has gone a bit, the march of Bit2Me. We were talking about the discounted funds. I suppose that soon we will be able to put the presentation back on, or maybe Giovanni has dropped out.
There it is, literally.
Yes, there it is. Has it already happened?
This is something from the live show, Neil. This is something from the live broadcast.
Yes, something always has to happen. Anyway, we were talking about the funds discounted for early unlocking. Here, I inform you that we have surpassed the amount of more than 5 million B2M collected from that 10%. That, let's say, we discount from the funds that are unlocked ahead of time, which is fantastic. And we also see a bit of the growth that has occurred, which ultimately makes sense. The more people adopt the B2M lock, the more funds are discounted because more funds are potential to be withdrawn early and therefore have that 10%. Moreover, any movement in the value of B2M, whether up or down, generates those movements and causes them to want to be discounted either to sell or to move or something like that, which increases these collected funds. Also, remember that we conducted a survey a week ago, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of weeks ago. And if you haven't received it, it might be because you didn't have more than 10,000 B2M, the threshold we set to send that survey, and the results were overwhelming. We are talking about these 5 million B2M, and not just these 5 million, but all that we will collect in the future. What do you want to do with them? And more than 80% decided that they wanted those funds to be burned instead of an airdrop, which was the second option we offered to users. And what I can tell you is that as of today, in the very short term, we won't be able to do it in terms of directly burning the funds, but that doesn't mean it won't be done eventually. One thing is the operational level, which is to carry out that burning, and the other is the theoretical level. At a theoretical level, you can consider that these 5 million B2M are out of the supply. Just because we haven't performed the burning action doesn't mean they haven't gone to their plan. They will go into circulation. This is 100%. There is no doubt because you yourselves have wanted it with this survey, but it won't be immediate. It will be in a few weeks or months that we can execute this action. So we move on to the last part. We move on to the crown jewel and the main reason we're here, which is the topic of B2M redemption. The redemption of B2M, as many of you know, was launched on Monday at noon, and we did it completely voluntarily without any communication, without any in-app notifications, emails, or campaigns. We did it completely without communication because in the end, it's a system that's very new. Okay, just in terms of code and so on, it's something very new, and the team has been working a lot in recent weeks. They've done an amazing job in record time, but what we wanted was to test it a bit and say, okay, let's open it, but we're not going to make a big fuss because the last thing we need is some kind of technical error that causes a lot of problems. That's why we launched it quietly, just over 24 hours ago. And I can tell you that it has been a success regarding these 24 hours because just through word of mouth, just through the Telegram topic, which you know I'm a big fan of reading about on Telegram, I saw that in less than half an hour, people were already talking about the burns. which I thought was really cool that people found out so quickly. There we can verify that as of today, that is, as I said, less than 24 hours later, more than 150,000 B2M have been burned through redemptions, and more than 8,000 Space Center points have been generated through the burns. Therefore, I find that super powerful. It seems that people have really liked it, and that's also what I'm reading on Telegram, that you've really liked it, and in the end is a success for us because we do it with the aim of introducing a new mechanism, a new utility for Verosemi, and having that reception is something we really appreciate. Next week.
Can we perhaps remind people where the feature is located within the app?
Yes, absolutely. This is a new mission from Space Center. So when you enter the Space Center app, let's remember that it's not available on the web. It will be available on the web in the coming weeks. When you enter the app, at the top right, in the upper right corner, you have your Space Center level, which if you tap on it, takes you to the Space Center, and you have a list of missions. If you have a list of missions, you will see the Cancia Eurocentros M mission, and if not, you can also access it from the upper left corner in the drop-down menu. You can go to Space Center, and there you will also see the entire list of missions, one of them being redeemed, 1062M, which is the first milestone. And once you achieve this, you just keep going. This mission, let's remember, has, I would say, 3 special points or 3 special characteristics that make it different from 90% of missions. The first is that it does not expire. Is it the only mission that does not expire or cannot be failed? Let's remember that most missions expire because after a year, after X amount of time, you lose the points and the mission cannot be completed again. In this case, no, these points do not expire. The second point is that it has to do with B2M, which makes it the 3rd mission involving B2M. If when Space Center was launched, we already knew that B2M was the pillar of the system and we reinforced it with the topic of blocking, now we have completely closed it. That is, with B2M, you can earn points in 3 different ways in Space Center. Therefore, there is no excuse not to consider B2M as the main pillar of growth within Space Center.
Neil, they are asking if you could possibly raise your voice a bit, please.
Yes. Sorry, I'm in a room with different people and I don't want to disturb them. I hope you can hear me better now. And well, just to tell you that in terms of the mechanism, in the next slide we will explain how it works, but just to say that this is the beginning of the B2C redemption. That is to say, it is the first mechanism we generate for that redemption, but many others are yet to come so that it becomes a routine practice within B2Me at the user level to access different missions or various promotions, or to have some kind of advantage within the platform.
When you simply say it just can't be, perhaps.
Well, we've put up a Stats Muteados survey, I think, Giovanni.
Now, right? When you say it can't be, that they don't expire, or that it can't be undone, I don't know if there's something to say.
I say it, I don't know. Now, yes, now I do believe it.
That, Neil, when you say, for example, that it doesn't expire, nor can it be undone, when you say it can't be undone, I think it refers to the B2M mission, right? When you sell the B2M, correct? Do you know what you're referring to?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't finish that. The fact that it doesn't expire doesn't get undone. Indeed, what doesn't expire is what I was saying, that many expire after 2 months. And the fact that it doesn't get undone is indeed because the B2M purchase and maintenance missions and the B2M blocking mission can both be undone. That is, the B2M purchase and maintenance, when you sell, the points are deducted because you have sold, so you are not buying and maintaining. And the B2M blocking, the same, because when you unlock those funds, it basically blocks them, which is why it also, those points are removed.
There's a question. Well, we can leave them for later if you want, the questions. But well, if you want, we can continue, Neil. Let's continue with the presentation and then we'll address the questions.
Okay, perfect. Just one thing left to briefly remind how the redemption mechanism works. In the next slide, what we do is during which the user can redeem as many B2M as they want through this mission from the mechanisms we are launching. Then what B2M does is group those B2M that are being redeemed into a single pool, let's say, and then once a month, which we already mentioned, we are not going to say how much it will be, okay? It will be once a month, and you will be able to see it on the website. Later, we will see it on the next slide where you can see it. But once a month, we are going to burn all those funds that we have been accumulating over the 30 days or during the previous month. That's why the format is quite simple, but we remind you, because what I don't want is for people to see the P2N exchange, go to Equrescan or go to some kind of tool like this and want to see that a transfer to a dead address of P2N has indeed been made. The transfer will occur once a month with all the accumulated exchange.
Okay, they're commenting, Neil, that we should mention that the exchange is done from the wallet, not from it. But as you said, you have to enter the Space Center. Also, say that you need to update the application, okay? In case you haven't done it for a while, it's possible that the new function might not appear. So if you haven't updated it for a few weeks or months, remember that you need to update the levels within the Space Center and the missions you can do. You'll see that this new function is there, right? Well, perfect, perfect. There is from the Space Center where you have the function.
Perfect. On the other hand, meanwhile, while it's being explained here,
what is Giovanni saying? If we can just put it in the chat. I can't hear you, Giovanni. I can hear Neil perfectly, but not you. I don't know why. There's some kind of audio error. I don't know what's happening.
we have
So if I interrupt you, it's because I can't hear you. If we can...
You don't stop, you don't stop, you don't stop, clearly. Thank you. Yes.
Javi, precisely along those lines, we have a poll with a vote currently live with 107 votes about whether you are a holder of B2M. And the truth is that the poll is quite interesting. So we'll leave it there. Along those lines, the questions that come up, if we don't answer any of them live, don't worry, because we're taking notes. And when Neil comes with much more data, we'll provide answers, but we'll be responding on the go and also at the end of the live session. So thank you very much. I'll continue to give the floor to Anil so he can go on.
Yes, there's only the last point left, the last slide of the presentation that we wanted to discuss, which is a bit about answering that question we mentioned earlier about where I can see what has been loaded, where I can see what has been sent to a dead address to burn, and so on. Well, this was the live B2M information that you have today about the B2M that you have in the app and also on the website, but it is indeed on the landing page of there. You can see a bit of the update, which also answers a question I've seen several times on Telegram. It is not in real time, okay? It is something that we update when we can, which is an intensive menu every 2 days, right? And there we do maintain a bit of that update ratio in the future if we want to automate it. But the truth is we prefer to use those resources to generate initiatives with more tangible value for the user. Thank you. And you can let it update every 2 days or so. Even so, as I said, in the future, we hope to be able to automate it. But that's where you'll be able to see the information. Well, as of today, you can already see it if you want to check it out. You can see what has been redeemed in total, which in this case only considers what has actually been burned, which are those 50 million we burned at the time. But we are going to change it shortly so that it can also include everything that is redeemed in real time, not just what is burned, but redeemed in real time. That way you can see it. You will also see, you can already see what you have redeemed, what it represents within the total. And in the end, you will have the address to which we send or will send those B2M each time we do a burn. So you can access it yourselves to do scans. Or, as you know, the blockchain is very good. It's the most transparent. And there you can perfectly see how those transfers are made.
All right. We finish with this slide. Is that correct? I won't say it. Do we finish with this slide?
Yes, with this we finish and we will address questions. And if you want, when Javi wants to speak, I'll tell you if Giovanni is speaking or not, because otherwise that will be a problem.
All right, Ada, look, precisely in line with that. Adern, Snow was precisely saying that. To notify that it has to be done from wallet to be able to redeem them or even block them, which is also super important, as you just mentioned, Neil, that it is planned to be done directly without the need. I mean, it's something that is planned, maybe not in the coming weeks, but we do have it in that line to make it easier. Nevertheless, it's very good that they mentioned it to remind us, and I'm going to stop sharing, Jose.
Yes, here also a question that I know has arisen since the launch has been about how we have these milestones, whether the user can perform burns sporadically, and those redemptions without having to make fixed amounts, which are the missions, but also be able to do it at their own pace. And that's totally true. Just like the B2M buy and hold B2M and the B2M lock, it doesn't require those exact amounts at the moment, but it can be accumulated. This is the same. I mention it because I've seen people saying, look, besides Aura, the API I receive from Earn, not just from B2M, but from other currencies, I have to collect in B2M everything I receive from that API, which in the end is a bit like free stuff that comes to me. I'm going to burn it and exchange it to earn points. Well, I think it's a very good strategy, to be honest. And you can do it. You don't need to exchange 50 euros all at once if the goal is 50 euros in B2M. You can perfectly exchange 3 euros, 5, 6 each time until you reach that goal.
Agreed. One of the questions Borja asked us was when B2M will be available for the loan service, precisely when the loan presentation was made. Even Lights told us that it was planned for the next currency to be B2M. That is to say, as always, it's a forecast. We are precisely working on it, but as always, it's just a forecast that was mentioned at the time, so keep it in mind.
Great. Well, now we hear you. More questions out there? Any questions you have during the live session that you want to share?
If someone asks us here, Yusebi asks if you know if there will be a points ranking for the Estoy Center.
Yes, they does everything regarding both the points ranking of the Space Center and the accumulated benefits, the benefits obtained. Considering the pro part, the wallet part, and all that we talked about in the last live session, that will be available, but not right now. As I said, we will address all these points in the upcoming live session, where we can update the P2M and Space Center roadmap to clarify those doubts. But yes, we are working on it and it will happen. Don't worry about that. What happened is that we wanted to prioritize resources to launch the redemption in Q1, which is what we promised. And as you have seen, we have been cutting it close. So the next thing we will address as soon as possible.
Great. We have another survey. We have already completed the previous one and now we have you already used the B2M redemption? And if you have any questions about it, now is the time to take advantage. Even so, we believe we have resolved most of the questions on the go.
Yes, about who has used it and so on, aside from whether it has been used or not, I'll just mention that I am among the top 5 users who have redeemed the most to date, so I challenge anyone to surpass it, and that's it. I'll leave it there.
Well, fantastic as always, Neil. It's truly a pleasure to have you here. Stay with us because Giovanni and I still have a bit of the program left. We're going to talk about the coins we've added and the events we've attended this month, Bit2Me. So if you don't mind sticking around for 10 minutes, if there are any questions from someone watching us, we'd appreciate it. You're always welcome. And you know we welcome you warmly here, Neil.
I'll stay as long as you need me.
Well, then there you have it, right? Everything he brings us. Neil, that review with all that valuable information. Well, people are super enthusiastic as always. Giovanni, if you agree, let's discuss that. In addition to the stable coins we mentioned earlier for the loan product, UR and USDR loans, we have a bunch of new currencies. And not just currencies, Giovanni, but interesting features. Within the wallet, we've listed one that you've been asking for a while, which is Pi, with that mathematical symbol, Plume, BMT, and Red. And then in Pro, what we've added, because you've been asking for it, also are the pairs, but directly referenced to the euro. Because there are many people who like to have it in dollars, which is perfect, but other users requested that those Bit2Me Pro pairs also be listed in the way we all use, which is the euro. On the other hand, we have added new...
Precisely, there are 30 new pairs. We are not going to name them now because there are precisely 30, but just to keep you informed that we are on that path exactly as we had said. Gradually adding new pairs to adapt to what is the MiCA law.
Exactly. Then on another note, we have also added new networks for making deposits and withdrawals. That is, from the networks that are already ready within Bit2Me. And so that we can both withdraw outside the platform and from outside the platform into Bit2Me. Also, the Tau, SPX, Vera, and Sonic networks are the currencies that are already available and have all that functionality. And then what we have done, Giovanni, also, which I found very interesting, are new collections. New collections. What does that mean? What we have done is group families of different types of cryptocurrencies. We have put them in a group so that if you like the value proposition that these cryptocurrencies bring, you can have them grouped directly. For example, liquid staking, which would be LDO, JTO, Pendel, Ankar, RPL. Then we also have the portfolio that is being set up, the family of Donald Trump in the United States. And someone has said, hey, I would like to know which coins the Donald Trump family is investing in, the ones they are interested in, as it seems they are going to create a super favorable environment for the ecosystem to grow. And we said, well, hey, let's include World Liberty Financial Portfolio, which is the Trump family portfolio. And there, what coins do we have, Giovanni? Well, we have Ethereum, USDR, we have Tron, we have Link, we have Hondo, AVE, ENA, Move, SEI, BTC. You can see that. We also have it organized now.
Sorry, it's also important for those who want to know where they will find that in the app directly when they press the buy button. Among the options that appear are instant purchase, recurring purchase, and others. And even for Victim and Pro, they have the possibility to buy collections and how it works briefly. Basically, the amount you decide to buy will be divided into equal parts and will be the written request.
I find it very interesting because here, what you would do if you believe in those projects and think it makes sense, because also people with quite a bit of influence or decision-making power with money, who in the end are the family of Donald Trump, are going to invest in a series of coins so that you don't have to buy those coins separately, but you can have exposure, as Giovanni mentions, to all of them with a simple click, and you set the amount you want to allocate. Then on the other hand, we have the group of Oracle typology, which basically sounds very much like the Matrix, but when brought to the crypto world, it's much easier. These are things happening in the real world. We use a filter or assets that are in the real world through a filter or events or information from the real world. We put it into a blockchain. For what purpose? To be able to transact that information. Having trusted an oracle, which would be these intermediate information points, and there we would have Link, Pith, Ban, UMA, PHA. A series of coins that you can see, but all are part of the family of this initiative, which is to transfer information happening in the real world to a blockchain for the purpose that each of these projects has. And then there are the perpetuals, which would be this orientation of the investment world, where you would find Hype, DYDX, ARC, GMX, GNS. Well, you also have a group there, as Giovanni was saying, if you want to see it more organized. As you know, we have a series of filters by groups, by collections, by type. And I think it's interesting. This, read that, this. Also made it for if we see that a concept has a future, I don't know, play to earn or DeFi or whichever we consider makes sense. Then we can have all the coins organized, all the established coins, and we can make an investment spread across all those collections.
Correct. Precisely, these are collections that have been organized along those lines. It's super important, and take advantage of the resources you have through B2B. For example, if there's a coin you don't know and you want to learn a bit more, get more details about its project and so on. Again, in the academia articles, you will be able to directly find out about what AVE is, about serious matters, and so on. That being said, because it's quite important to follow up on those projects to see their evolution, increase, the strategy, etc. Also, directly from the application, when you go and select one of the cryptocurrencies, we are adding much more information. For example, if withdrawals are enabled, which networks are available, take a look, enjoy the application precisely. And as I always say, if you think we can improve something, feel free to comment on it, to make some kind of proposal, because we are very attentive to it. And not much more, Javi. The truth is that the new collections, the pairs, are quite interesting, as you say. And if you want, we can move on to the next thing.
Well, yes, just give us feedback. Let us know when you operate with them, if you like this topic of collections, if you find it interesting. And apart from that, as always, B2B is on the ground. This March, the truth is, we have had deployed all our components, the team in different cities, in different countries. We have been at the Mobile World Congress at the 40 years from now, which is, as you know, the reference event in the technological field, where we were able to be present, sharing with all the attendees what the future of the Bitcoin ecosystem and crypto assets is. Gabriel and other colleagues were there doing that work on what's happening. There was a lot of interest from the technology sector and also from the banking world. We have also been able to work on that at Merch. Jose Luis Cáceres was there, as you know, Pablo Casadillo, and Abel Peña was at the event organized by Pablo. And it has been a pleasure because we have been able to talk with banks from Latin America, Itaú, BBVA, Argentina, and other important companies to expand the model, the business, and then other events that have been the compliance team, always receiving awards. We are super happy and delighted to have such a professional team. And then, well, we obviously gathered in Castellón with the entire community of Victimeros. Giovanni was also there, along with many of you who are here live. And honestly, it was a day. Fantastic. Well, actually, we had a great time over the weekend, and then we ate there. And where was it, Giovanni? Where we had a ribeye steak on the way back there in Tomelloso. In Tomelloso, it was with Luis, right?
With Luis. Precisely, Javi, and not less important that precisely on March 14th, you were at a Bitcoin event at the Alicante Chamber. There was actually quite a lot of positive feedback about it.
Yes, at the Chamber of Commerce. Well, it's another one of the ideas, right? The companies start using cryptos, stablecoins as a tool, right? For transactions, for trading, for receiving payments. And well, we were delighted to be there with Ana Jorda, who helped us, with Lucia, who did a fantastic job organizing. And then in the media, there we are, Giovanni, trying to spread the message to everyone and bring them closer to this ecosystem. Because the other day I was publishing, the searches I was seeing on Google about the world of Bitcoin and crypto, right? And sometimes, well, all of you here, I think you are ahead of the curve, ahead of your time, because you have seen value in a technology that is booming, that is being integrated, and there is still so much ahead. So, well, that support, that help you provide by explaining it to friends, to family, those referrals that always, alongside Bit2Me, as they tell me, and they tell you too, Giovanni and the whole team, hey, I brought a friend. They call you, they write to you asking how this works. Yeah, that works. And we thank you because thanks to you, we can reach further with the message. We can explain it to more people and make the community grow larger, which is the idea.
In that regard, Javi, people have been asking us about Latin America, whether we are doing something once again in Argentina. We are doing great things in Argentina in the prehistoric line of evangelizing, of explaining to people, both public institutions and universities and so on. That said, not less important, precisely on February 28th, 2025, there was the event with NGO, Bitcoin. Argentina, precisely a strategic collaboration in line with our most important pillars, which is education, training, something you are developing a lot here in Spain, and we are precisely taking it to Latin America. We see the need precisely not only to educate in that line and show them what kind of tools they can use through a platform like ours. Also, Javi, we were precisely there very recently on March 20th at the B2Me Community Point at the European University of Madrid. What were we doing there? Among other things, precisely, together with the European University of Madrid, B2Me and the European University of Madrid received 2.25 million euros for research. The use of artificial intelligence and blockchain in fraud prevention, because we are very much aligned with precisely avoiding that fraud, ensuring that people have that first entry point in a way that is comfortable. And from there, they can start educating themselves, as you often point out, even if they want to eventually see self-custody in a different way, but that they take those first steps firmly. And from there, they can start exploring other things that are more aligned with them. So congratulations, precisely thanks to the support of the European University of Madrid, to Decalas. Also, who has been in that line, and also with significant support from Super Pioneers, according to the Super Pioneers community.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. Ideally, Neil, you should close the program today. I think there are no more questions left unanswered. Giovanni, I don't know if we have any issues.
The only thing is that the initial supply that they are telling us, they are asking if the supply of B2M was going to be increased at some point. Just as it can be exchanged, it will be burned. If at some point that could arise, that it would be increased.
Well, let's connect with Neil. And Neil, also if he wants. Today the program closes.
What an honor. Perfect. Well, let's answer this very quickly. Although I see we've had very quick users who have already responded in the chat. Indeed, as those who tell us, when I always talk about the initial supply, I always talk about the 5,000 million with which we entered the market with that ICO from a few years ago, but there will never be more. Those are the 5,000 million that were created in B2M, and they will stay there. They can only decrease. It is a completely increasing supply and inflation area. They will be subtracted, and I always talk about the initial because, as you know, we did that burn of 50 million a few months ago by Bit2Me, so there are no longer those 5 million. Now it's 450 million. And now with the redemptions that are happening, even less. Therefore, I will always talk about total supply, which is what exists today, and the initial supply, which is when we launched, as this is the way I found people understand us better.
Excellent. Look, precisely. One last thing that was one of the first questions they asked, which referred to this T-shirt. They wanted this T-shirt. Who has this T-shirt? The B2M holders. Precisely. It's a special division of the B2M holders. In that line, are we going to have it again? I have no idea. We'll see in future episodes. Keep accumulating B2M, because not only with that, with the B2M holders, we have every month. So in that line, the last thing is, we are preparing strategies, and we are going to start the Spare Again sessions. So stay tuned, because we are going to give a lot of updates in the coming weeks.
As mentioned, a true pleasure. Thank you, Neil, for joining us today. The community is very happy whenever you are with us, close to them, to bring all the most important updates. We hope that this tool will be useful. Surely it will be. It has but a lot of potential. And what Nick said is the beginning of many other products that we are going to see about B2M. And well, we are very happy. It has been a pleasure. Jose at the controls there. Fantastic as always. And as I said, Neil, if you want, say goodbye to Giovanni. Yes, and we'll see each other next time. It felt very short to me today.
Okay, well, I also want to say goodbye on my part. It was a pleasure to be here with you. It's a pleasure that you always invite me, and I'm very happy. Just to mention a small detail regarding the T-shirt, maybe we'll do some more promotions, but X were ordered. X T-shirts were produced, and no more will be produced. Therefore, if we do any kind of promotion, it will be with the few remaining ones. Just so you know, we have them safely stored in the offices, because there were already people who wanted T-shirts, and we said no, that only token holders receive T-shirts here. So maybe there could be something. What I can assure you is that at in-person events, maybe at some we can do some kind of distribution. Therefore, I also invite you not only to hold that B2M that Giovanni mentioned, but also to attend those in-person events. We organize them with so much care, and we love meeting you, because maybe there could be some surprise there. And nothing, lots of them. Thank you. See you in the next live session.
Spectacular, spectacular. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye-bye.